So for the agenda today, a few things. One, we're going to start off by talking about some of the healthcare challenges that we've seen in the market and healthcare providers are facing or will be in the near future. We'll then look at how do we go into preparing for the evaluation with project goals and success measurements and the importance of defining and drafting these. We'll then take a look at gathering your requirements, right? And look at some of the scope inputs and the business process requirements, how to go about that a little bit. Then we'll look at the approach for vendor and solution evaluation, and that'll also include considerations and recommendations. Then we'll look at Oracle and Workday and some key pricing and term comparisons so you can see the difference between some of the licensing methodology. And then lastly, we'll round out with some other considerations. And this will also include reviewing what I would call a realistic timeline of activities, which is one area that clients seem to have a challenge with about how should we plan for this, how much time should we look at for conducting this type of evaluation. So in looking at the healthcare challenges, right, there's many that organizations face, but we just wanted to highlight kind of the most material ones that are really drivers for these types of transformation initiatives. So the first one is profitability. And last year it turned out more than 1/3 of hospitals had negative margins in 2021, which is pretty substantial, with a estimated net income loss of $54 billion, which was really surprising to see that. So obviously some of this is being driven by COVID, but there are operational efficiency challenges as well as market dynamics that are in play here too. Hey, Ted, before we jump here, we got a question that just came in. It just said, have you seen instances where an organization has missed the mark in one of these categories? And if so, what were the outcomes?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So yes, we have seen it. We saw where a customer, a client of Upper Edge, that we're involved with one engagement, had purchased their software. They had gone through these 4 steps. They executed a program. They tried to extend the functionality of that software to another area of their business, and they didn't go through these steps. And the sadness of is that they didn't realize till they got through to implementation that the software wasn't going to meet the requirements, and they spent money, but the project was canceled.
Now I'm going to hand over to Arwan to cover a little bit more detail regarding the PROC mapping exercise.
So some of the challenges that we see working with many organizations, looking at the vendor's capabilities, right, is that they don't have a clear visibility as to which solutions really meet their business requirements. So we have team telling us, well, Oracle or Workday, they sent us a proposal with a list of products, but we're not really sure if they map to what we need. So the question is, how can you engage in a constructive analysis to ensure that your team, the one doing the evaluation, understands which solution will meet with your business requirements? So here what we have is an illustrative example of how Oracle and Workday mapped their respective solution to the business processes in scope for that particular healthcare provider that we looked in the previous slide. So like Ted mentioned earlier, the key here is that your team will need to identify at least the level 1 and 2 processes, and you may need to work with the vendors to come up with level 3. But once you have those business processes, from there, you can let Oracle and Workday map their solutions to those requirements. And now you can evaluate the quality of their solutions as it relates to your success measurements. So the key part here is that will help you validate the bill of materials, also potentially avoid paying for products that you don't need, and therefore it will allow you to conduct a more efficient evaluation of these solutions.